The Phoenix Suns may have a bright future with the likes of Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. But between the time they drafted Devin Booker and the time they drafted DeAndre Ayton, they easily had one of the worst stretches of drafting in the lottery I think the league has ever seen. And to understand what I mean by that, what if I told you that between the time they drafted Devin Booker and the time they drafted DeAndre Ayton, every single lottery pick between that time isn't even on the team anymore? With that being said, let's talk about what I think is the worst 2-year stretch of drafting in NBA history. The Phoenix Suns would use the 4th overall pick on Dragon Bender, who was a Croatian power forward who drew comparisons to Kristaps Porzingis because he was European. Because here's the thing, they weren't as similar as players as you would think. Porzingis is more athletic, and you could argue he was more prepared for the NBA. Dragon Bender wasn't really prepared for the NBA. In his first year, he only averaged 3.4 points per game on just 35.4% shooting from the field in 43 games. He played all 82 games in his second year, but averaged just 6.5 points per game, 4.4 rebounds per game on 38.6% shooting from the field. And in his final year in Phoenix, he averaged just 5 points per game, 4 rebounds per game on 44.7% shooting from the field. Now, the one player I think that you could say they should have taken was Jamal Murray. But you may be arguing, what, Eric Bledsoe was on the roster at the time. Here's the problem with that logic. Eric Bledsoe really didn't fit the trajectory of what the Phoenix Suns needed to do as an organization. Because of his age, by the time these all young players were hitting their prime, like Devin Booker, he would have been leaving his prime, so he didn't fit the timeline. Why not take a point guard in Jamal Murray, who can play both guard positions, and would be a good fit next to Devin Booker? Dragon Bender has not been good at all. In fact, when you're a player entering his 4th year and your team lets you go off your rookie contract and you sign a 1-year guaranteed contract with a 2nd year partially guaranteed, what does that tell you about him? You went with the 4th overall pick. In fact, I don't know if you would even get drafted based off that. Hell, the only reason he might be getting drafted in a redraft situation in this draft is because his draft class was weak mostly, besides a few players at the top and a few steals at the bottom. Overall, the Phoenix Suns really messed up on this pick, and there's not much else I can say about that. But trust me, it gets a lot worse. In that same 2016 NBA draft, the Phoenix Suns would trade up to the 8th overall pick to select Marquise Chris, another power forward. He was a freshman from Washington, who oddly enough was a player who really didn't start out on the radar entering his freshman year. Then he slowly began to rise up the board to the point where some thought he would go top 3. Eventually he would fall to the 8th overall pick, and well, he hasn't been that good. But the thing that makes it worse is the picks they traded to move up. They traded the 13th overall pick and the 28th overall pick to move up to the 8th overall pick. With the 13th overall pick, they could have selected a Denzel Valentine or a Malik Beasley or Karis LeVert. And with that 28th overall pick, they could have selected DeJounte Murray. Instead, they decided to move up for a player who actually had a little bit of promise entering his rookie year. He was named to the All-Rookie second team, put up solid stats, and overall showed promise as a potential key piece for the future. But then his production went down in his second season, after averaging 9.2 points per game in his first year on 44.9% shooting from the field. He would dip down to 7.7 points per game on just 42.3% shooting from the field. And he would eventually be traded to the Houston Rockets, where he averaged just 1.8 points per game, 1.8 rebounds per game on 32.4% shooting from the field. And then he would be traded to Cleveland in that same season and averaged just 5.7 points per game, 4.2 rebounds a game, and 14.6 minutes per game over 27 games for them. And currently he is a free agent. Yeah, he is a free agent. Like, no one has signed him now. a player this young, who was taken that high in the draft, and especially someone you traded up to get, and he's not even in the league after his 4th year, and he's only 22. Now, could he make a comeback? Yeah, he could. But when you have the 8th pick and you select a power forward, when there was someone who ended up being a better power forward on the board in Domantas Sabonis, there was a better small forward on the board in Taurean Prince. Hell, even Jakob Poeltl probably would have been a better pick than Marquese Chriss. Marquese Chriss was one of those athletic freak players and it ended up panning out in the NBA. And it's not completely over for him, but at the same time, he really didn't work out for you when, again, the Phoenix Suns used their 4th overall pick in 2017 on Josh Jackson, a small forward from Kansas. Josh Jackson was praised for his defensive potential, ability as a playmaker, a slasher, improving shooting, and overall just a two-way start, in the mold of a Scottie Pippen, according to some. And this one is easily, in my opinion, the worst of the 3 because the players drafted after him. I'm going to name a few of them. De'Aaron Fox, Lauri Markkanen, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, Frank Neal, not Frank. I don't know why I was about to say that one. But Jonathan Isaac was also available. But they chose Josh Jackson. And personally, I don't blame him. Josh Jackson was actually viewed as a player that could go top 3. I remember the Celtics were mocking him to them. He probably would have been the 3rd overall pick if he didn't miss out on a meeting. Or he probably may have been the 3rd overall pick if the 76ers held that pick. But he fell to the 4th overall pick. And he wasn't bad in his rookie year by any means of the imagination. He was a player who averaged around 13.1 points a game, 4.6 rebounds a game, on 41.7% shooting from the field, but in the second half of the season, he really improved. But in his second year, he averages 11.5 points per game on 41.3% shooting from the field, with 4.4 rebounds per game, while starting less games. And the thing about Josh Jackson is he also has had some off-field problems that I will not be talking about, but at the same time, when you're a player that was traded for Grayson Allen and Javon Carter, it really tells you what your value is. And a 4th overall pick gets traded more than what he was, because he now is a member of the Memphis Grizzlies. This was supposed to be the 3rd star to the team. He was supposed to be the time that Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Josh Jackson were supposed to be that big 3. But he ended up not being that good at all. He never really lived up to the hype coming out of high school. He was one of the highest rated high school players coming into the college season. Had a good freshman year at Kansas and never really lived up to the expectations, partially because of his off-field issues and partially because of his on-court play and his ability to adjust. So, yeah, and especially when you trade someone after just their second year, especially with when they were a 4th overall pick, it really goes to show you what kind of player he ended up being and how much the Phoenix Suns messed up, because they really could have used De'Aaron Fox. I'm not kidding, they really could have used De'Aaron Fox. Like, 10 years from now, we're going to be talking about how the Phoenix Suns were passed on De'Aaron Fox. Like, we're already talking about it now, and I can only imagine what's going to be like in 10 years. So, after they drafted Devin Booker in 2015, they drafted a player that they will let walk in free agency. They would trade a player that they traded after his second season, and another player they would trade after his second season. And none of them are on the roster, and because none of them ended up panning out. And overall, it just goes to show you how bad the Phoenix Suns ran as an organization. And it sucks because Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton have superstar potential in this league. And they are stuck on a team with a bad owner, a bad front office, and a solid head coach in Monty Williams. But at the same time, what could they have done differently? Well, they could have drafted better, but some of it's also hindsight. All 3 of those players were viewed as highly rated prospects. All 3 of them had potential to go top 3 in their respective draft classes. But again, none of them did. Some of them ended up falling a little bit. But they ended up not living up to the expectations and the hype that they had on them. And they didn't even live up to what their floor could have been. Josh Jackson, gone. Dragon Bender, gone. Marquese Chriss, gone. All 3 of them no longer on the team. And the only lottery picks they have since they drafted Devin Booker are Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. What does that go to show you? Hopefully they can turn it around, but I don't know about that one.